Get it going.
Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on PharcydeTV. And my co-host Jeremy Scipio is out there doing his comedy thing tonight. But I have a guest tonight that's dear to my heart. My happens to be my cousin too, three-time Olympian, 110 high hurdler, Tonie Campbell. As I was growing up, I was never really athletic. Like, you know, I played a little bit of basketball. I did make the Carson City Cobras.
There you go.
I did. And the interesting thing about that is that a guy that was in my neighborhood was on the Cobras, and he said, man, you should go and try out. And I wasn't really good at running or anything. And so the tryout for it was you had to do 6 miles, and that was that park. And I never even ran a mile. I don't think at that time. I was probably in junior high school, and it was that park. Is it Victor? What's that park next to?
Where the blimp lands?
Yeah,
that's Victoria Park.
I was gonna say Victoria. I didn't want to misquote it.
Yeah.
So the thing about it though, you had to run the 6 miles to make the team, but you could run whatever pace that you was your pace. So right. I ran the slowest 6 miles ever. But
thank you, Greg, for having me on your show, because I appreciate you. Anytime I get to spend time with my cousins, my family, I love it. But I tell you what, that story right there, if that was my tryout or indoctrination to track and field, Tonie Campbell, the Olympic Greens would have never happened for this brother right here. Because us Campbells are built for speed. We're not built for long distance. So yeah, because I know what you're feeling. I know what you're saying, because we played football, little league football, stuff like that. And I was always the slowest to jog them laps, one, because I got all this padding and stuff on there that's hot and I'm just uncomfortable. And I was always the slowest. So who knows how I found track and field and found out I was fast. But, I tell you what, us Campbells, we ain't built for speed, bro.
You know what? We
ain't built for distance, I should say. So.
We should have had this conversation a long time ago, because I used to run the 880 and was never really successful at it. So if you would have told your little cousin, man.
I would have pulled you. Yo, man, listen up, man. See them hurdles over there? See those blocks over there? That's you. This lap stuff, it ain't us, man. It ain't us. So, yeah.
Cool. So what city did you grow up in?
Okay, so our family grew up we were one of the establishing families in Carson, California, which had just recently been changed from a section of Compton, California, and changed into Carson. So my house, the house I grew up in, is exactly 5 houses away from the borderline of Compton and Carson. So basically, majority of, a good 3, 4, 5 years of my up till I was like 8 years old, I guess. When we first moved in Carson, I was 5. I lived in Compton, and then it got changed to Carson. So I still claim Compton, but I definitely claim Carson, because they gave me the key to the city one time. So I better give them some props once in a while too. So yeah.
You know what? That's interesting, because DA, where you guys lived, there was always this funny little rivalry between DA and kind of Compton.
Absolutely.
like in I know someone who lives in DA, and they were telling me the story that he's younger than me, so he didn't know the details that but that makes a lot of sense with DA being Compton at one time,
right?
And then doing what it did. So when was the first time you heard hip hop?
Oh my God. Well, okay, so another thing that people don't really know, see, I'm telling on you too. So the one thing you guys got to know about us Campbells is us Campbells are cultured, we're traveled, we're worldly, but we're also big music aficionados. Whether it's your dad, Billy, or my dad, Albert, hey, we probably had to grow up listening to jazz and listen to R&B. And then when hip hop started coming around, of course, it was a transition it wasn't even a transition. It was just here's a little bit something else, adding that to the pop. So I can't remember the very first song or the first time I heard some hip hop, but it's been with me from day one. I mean, I do remember the very first concert I went to, and that was a Sugar Hill Game concert that I was taken to by my girlfriend. And, you know, at that time, I knew a little Run DMC, I knew a little Rakim, I knew a little this, a little that. But I went to this concert and my mind was blown, man. I mean, these brothers was still already kind of being heralded as the godfathers of rap already, you know, because a lot of rap was already breaking off into gangster rap, you know, West Coast, East Coast stuff. And I saw the Sugar Hill Game and I was just like, wow. And I saw it's in that particular concert, the Sugar Hill Game, Melly Mel, and there was a couple other people there. But it was just mind blowing. It was mind blowing just to hear how they were smooth, how the rhymes had stories. And I've always been a person that enjoys stories. So give me a good story, whether it could be, you know, it could just be about life in the city, which a lot of, rap songs are about, or hip hop songs are about, you know, or it could be about the gangster life. But I love a good story. Just don't tell me about, you know, and that's something that even R&B's got away from. You know, back in the day, R&B songs were about relationships, about, you know, you broke up with me, you I'm gonna make love to you, whatever. You know, now it's just about bang, 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 hit it, shake it, you know. and I, you know, I mean, I listened to some of it, but it doesn't make my my iPod list, and put it that way.
Nah,
but,
you know what? It's not for us. You know what I'm saying?
And it wasn't for us, definitely.
That's something that, you know, one of my DJ buddies right now, he kind of had to explain to me. And the way he put it was, from the hip hop that we grew up listening to, you would have like a cool beat, you'd have a cool MC, you'd have some style, you'd have, you know, like a lingo, you know, a way of communication that kind of came through with it. And now you may have a rapper, it may be a cool beat,
exactly,
it may be a cool style, but like you're not going to get all of it in one.
Yeah. You get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know. Yeah, and that's what I appreciated. You know, when hip hop was first coming on, it was everything. I mean, it wasn't a lot of sampling then, so it was a lot of original stuff, and they weren't biting off of somebody else's hook or something like that until later. So it was all original. And like I say, it was a story. It was driven by a beat. It was relatable a lot of times. I mean, you know, I'll give you an example. I mean, you know, because I traveled a lot with the Olympic team, you know, I was always in New York, you know, and, you know, when you grow up in Carson, LA, you know, downtown LA is totally different than downtown New York. You know, downtown New York is hustling. It's alive. It's got a pulse. It's got a beat. You know, you got homeboy in the corner, 3-card Molly doing his thing, you know? And so when Run DMC came out with It's Tricky, I mean, I thought I was seeing something that very many people on West Coast could relate to, you know, which was cool, which was like, these dudes are on the street, they'll take your money. There's usually somebody working in the crowd with the dude. And I'm like, and the video was just like that. It was showing that ironically, Penn and Teller, the musicians, I mean, the magicians were the two dudes that were trying to hustle Run DMC, and they were hip to the game and they were hustling them. And I thought that was so cool. I mean, plus the song was good, but I just thought that's probably one of my all-time favorite hip hop videos that came out, you know, outside of course, the Pharcyde, you know, when they came out with Keeps Passing Me By, I was just like, wow. I mean, for them to take a video and then had certain scenes upside down. I mean, because I also, when I was at USC, I studied film too. And I was just like, that was just brilliant, man. I mean, it just flipped the scene and it just made you really pay attention to what's happening. And then to see how they just composed themselves while they were upside down and still able to keep with the lyrics and the beat was just amazing to me. I enjoy that video a lot too. So yeah. Oh, I lost audio on you, Greg.
My bad.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know, my sister was a big music buff. You know, she was into a lot of Parliament Funkadelic. She's into the Sugar Hill Gang as well. Absolutely. I can remember the cover of there was a George Clinton album where he was wearing the high heel boots and Dr. Funkenstein. He had the wig on.
Coming out the spaceship, is that it? The mothership?
I can't even remember that far, man. He scared the hell out of me, man.
But I'm telling you what, see, that was the seed that was planted that became hip hop, stuff like that. Because Parliament Funkadelic was stage show, but yet they had a beat, yet they had an interesting song in there. I mean, when I was at LA Banning High School, I was allowed to be the cafeteria, well, not the cafeteria, the lunchtime DJ. So me and my best friend Royce Johnson that lives up in the Bay Area now, he was my engineer, and we would spin hip hop songs that were coming out where they weren't even hip hop songs, but just like the George Clinton, we spun a little jazz, we spun a little fusion jazz because it was coming around. And of course some R&B stuff. But when George Clinton and Flashlight and Aqua Boogie, all those songs started coming out, those were the party songs that we were going to hear that Friday night anyway at the club. And that was kind of our code to anybody that was listening. There's a party this weekend. This is some of the music we're going to be spinning at the party. You better be there if you are somebody, So Flashlight still to this day gets a house rocking. Absolutely. So yeah, you can play some Parliament right now, walking down the street and somebody stop and just start bopping their head, because everybody maybe that they may not know that it's Parliament Funkadelic, but they know that song or know some of their songs.
So what was your first experience running track?
Oh man. Okay, so the story goes like this, and it's a true story. That I don't know if you remember, we have a cousin that played baseball for the Dodgers, Reggie Smith, and so and he became a coach for the Dodgers and all that kind of stuff. But baseball was my favorite love, and so I had always planned on becoming a baseball player. So track and field wasn't even in the picture. I didn't even know what track and field was when I got to high school. So I had talked to my parents. My dad was always a big sports fan, and he was just like, look, sports, teaches you discipline, keeps your mind fresh, keeps your body going. You're going to play some sports. And I'm like, cool. I haven't played sports since I was 5 years old, football, baseball. When I get to high school, I was kind of burned out. And I was like, look, I'm going to take 1 year off of baseball, and then I'm going to go for the scholarship in baseball and keep it pushing, keep it going, because I wanted to be like Reggie. So bottom line was I took that 1 year off, and my dad was like, cool, whatever, and so I went out for the track team. But on my street, the street, you've been to our house a million times, on our street, we got 14 houses in a cul-de-sac. And there's like 11 kids that grew up of my age on the street. And I'm like the second slowest person on the street, of my age group. And the only reason I'm not the slowest is because my little sister Karen is just a little slower than me, but not much, but just a little bit, but I was, and that's why I always laugh. And I like, okay, how did, I grew up on a street of 11 kids, 14 houses, 11 kids, and like the 10th fastest kid on the street out of 11, and become one of the fastest men in the world. Well, had a lot of great coaching, a lot of great luck. But the most important thing, when I was at Banning High School, the first day of practice, the coach decided to pick events, and I knew I wasn't that fast, and I didn't want to run distance because I know Campbells don't run distance. I wasn't that strong, so I couldn't do the throws. And long jump kind of interests me, but there's something about them hurdles, I knew I can jump over those things. And so I went to the hurdle group, and the coach was like, okay, you guys are the hurdles. Okay, so everybody's got to do both hurdles, the low hurdles and the high hurdles. And I was like, well, I'm out, because the high hurdles are too high. I could do the low hurdles. That's what I want to do. And the team captain, who was also the local gang member, but God bless his soul, Curtis Perry, he came up to me, got in my face, and says, you got to do both hurdles. And I'm like, dude, the hurdles are too tall. I'm doing the low hurdles. And he pushed me dead in my chest and called me an expletive. And the next thing I know, I'm falling backwards. And before, and then I quickly turn myself around so I won't fall on my back. And there's a hurdle there. And I just jumped over it just to keep from falling into it. And the next thing I know, it was a high hurdle, and I had made it. And I was like, oh, that's it? I can't do a high hurdle. And so I always tell people it was love at first flight. So I found out right then and that moment. That's a very true story. That's exactly how I learned how to hurdle or became a hurdler, was that push in my chest over a high hurdle. And God bless Curtis Perry. He's the reason why I'm a 3-time Olympian, a 3-time world champion. So yeah, that's my man.
So basically banning in high school was your first time running track.
First time running track ever. Yeah. And, so I didn't run youth. I didn't run clubs, nothing like that. First time I ran track was the 10th grade of high school. And I was pretty decent. I didn't make varsity. I did not make varsity. I was like back in the 70s, you had A's, B's, and C's, and it was based on your age and your weight and stuff like that. If you were really good, you can move up, but you couldn't move down further than your age or your weight class put you in. So I was a B hurdler, and A's were basically varsity. And I went all the way to the city championship the first year. And what place I got? I think I got second or third or something like that in the city. And it was good. And then the next year, my sophomore year or my junior year, so that's 11th grade, I made varsity. Went all the way to state, got hurt in the first round because it's 2 rounds. Got hurt, didn't make the finals, and then my senior year, and I made obviously I didn't go back to baseball. My senior year, I finished 3rd in the high hurdles and 4th in the low hurdles in the state, and got a full scholarship to USC. So yeah,
I always wondered how you ended up at USC.
Yeah. That was a story in itself too, because I didn't believe they actually came to recruit me. I mean, Ken Matsuda, who ended up being my personal coach for the next 16 years, because when I turned pro, he stayed with me as my personal coach. He actually came to a track meet with a couple team members from USC, recruiting me. And so the coach sent me into the bleach, said, "These guys are here to talk to you." And I'm like, I went, "Okay, who are you guys?" They say, "We're from USC." And I'm like, "USC or USC?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Why are you here to see me?" I'm like, "Look at that guy on the track. He's better than me. Look at that guy." They were like getting frustrated, like, "Dude, we're here to see you. We see those guys. They're good for them. They're going to go somewhere else. We're coming to recruit you." And it took me about an hour for them to convince me they were truly there to see me. And I tell you what, I had always thought I'd end up at UCLA or actually San Diego State down here where I live now. They were recruiting me. But I really wanted to go to Florida State or Auburn. That was my 2 top choices. And then UCLA was like my 3rd choice. And when USC came, because I never dreamt of going to USC, I just thought it was way out of my league. When they came, I didn't even take a recruiting visit. I signed when they offered a contract, the scholarship. I signed it the same night. So so it was great. It was great. Never looked back. So never looked back.
Well, definitely when you were doing your thing, it was before social media, but not just because I was your cousin, but you guys were like rock stars to us. Like it was like, man, you were going to back and forth to Europe before it was like a thing. And I try to explain to people, it's like, social media has desensitized a lot of stuff. I can even remember traveling to Japan with the Pharcyde and seeing people that couldn't speak English but knew all the words to the song.
Absolutely.
And I was kind of like, dang, you know what I'm saying? That's dedication. That was something that I didn't have in me. You know what I'm saying? Not to that level. Now, there were some songs that leaked through. I can't remember the name of the song, but I know there was one popular 80s German song, and I guess we kind of knew the words to it.
Okay.
Falco was the group.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Falco. Yeah.
Yeah, Falco was the group. I couldn't tell you a lyric if you asked me now, but back at the time when MTV was fresh and it was just like
absolutely
a big deal, it was like, you know, we knew that. But going to Japan, I saw dedication and then the way that American culture kind of impacted people.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially in Japan. That's true. Because I mean, the Japanese, you know, they bit off of the US, but to an extreme. So you know what I'm talking about. I mean, the dress, the how they put together their clothing and everything, they copy everything United States. I mean, they were sagging before we were sagging, it seems like, stuff like that. So they're different.
Yeah, my experiences with Japan, they're buffs for like detail. Yes. So like you'll see, like I've seen lowriders in Japan. You know, people roll up to the show in a Regal. You know what Absolutely. I'm saying? You have like whatever they do from the 30s to the 50s to the 70s. Matter of fact, my last time to Japan, I was in this bar, and the theme of the bar was the owner had like a wall full of records behind the bar, and he didn't use Serato or anything. Like all the songs that he played in the bar, he went back and he pulled from the collection, and he had all kind of obscure remixes of this, that, and the other. I remember hearing some Prince I had never heard and whatnot.
Absolutely.
I felt like, man, it's crazy that I'm in Japan and I'm experiencing something of American culture that is
absolutely
more moving than something that I've experienced in America.
Absolutely. I mean, so you know, I know exactly what you're talking about, because you know when we got to Japan, there were two places we went to. Akihabara. Have you ever been to Akihabara? Okay, Akihabara is the big RC toy hobby area. There's a whole city, several city blocks of just nothing but hobby stores packed on each other. And you get all the stuff that hasn't even made it to the United States yet. So you know I'm big on RC stuff. So we were bringing stuff back then. And then right around the corner of Akihabara was all the stereo stuff. So I had all the latest stereo equipment here in the United States years before it came. I mean, I'm talking when back in the day when stereos were really big and the speakers were like 5 feet tall and they started getting small and small. I had all those small speakers and all those small stereos that had mega power, stuff like that. But then there was another area, you know, within the stereo department that had all the international music. And just like you're saying, there was some B-sides, some tracks that I had never heard of by American artists, you know, or some European artists that I never heard. I actually discovered Sade 4 or 5 years before the United States ever got a single track. Her Cherry Pie album never even made it to the United States. I was sent to Europe 2 years in a row to bring back but cassette tapes for all of my friends and family, because everybody had heard me playing Sade on my car stereo. And they're like, who is that? And I'm like, I'll bring you back her stuff. So I was coming back with gifts of music that people had never heard of and stuff. So yeah, it's amazing how you had to leave your own country, you know, back in those days to get get a taste of culture that we're missing over here from even our own artists. But then to be on the leading edge and hearing stuff that's about to hit our shores and being like, wow, you know, you just don't know what's going on over there. It's about to come, vice versa. And you're on the leading edge of it. So it was pretty cool to experience that. So
see, I was doing it wrong, man. I never brought back anything that cool from
really?
Europe. Yeah, nah.
Oh man.
Nah, not that. You know, in Europe, I did get turned on to a lot of music. I'll say 96, 97, I saw the transition of artists like Beyonce and Usher having dance music remixes in Europe. And then it became the trend for American artists to do dance music, house music, remixes, and all that stuff. But I'll definitely say that Beyonce and Usher were some of the first larger artists to cross over that way. And then I had a love affair with house music, just, you know, partially being in London and really experiencing it at a club, being in Amsterdam, experiencing at a club, becoming one of my loves. But I want to spin it back a little bit because you were talking about your love for RC, you know, cars and planes and all that kind of
planes.
You fly.
I had cars, I had boats, but I still have a love for RC stuff, and I'm into turbine jet airplanes now. So I have a few downstairs in my garage.
And about how much does one of these turbine planes run?
Oh, you about to get me in trouble, man. You about to get me in trouble, man.
Keep a happy home. We keep that. We'll say
let's put it this way. I tell Debbie, you know, my wife Debbie, I tell her everything costs about $500 to $700. Just add a zero on that. So yeah, I mean, I have a couple planes that are downstairs that are over $5,000. So yeah.
So when you're out flying with your buddies,
yeah.
What is the level of nerves when you have this toy that's over $2,000, over $3,000,
and going and that goes 200 miles an hour? Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, so I have three jets right now that are fueled up, ready to go anytime I want to just grab them, put them in the car and go, right? But I only fly one of them because the other two I have to spend a whole week psyching myself up to get ready. And this look you have right now, this is that look, because the boys at the club are like, all right, this week we're all bringing this jet, that jet, and they've asked me to bring one of my big jets. It's the F-18 Hornet. And they're like, Tony, you bring your F-18 Hornet. And I'm like, okay, and I haven't flown it in about 6-7 months. And this jet, my other jets, I can fly, you got to concentrate, but I can take my hand off. I can have a conversation with you. This jet, don't talk to me, don't look at me. I'm concentrating because it's going 100, it cruises at 150. You know, if I crank it up, it's going to go, you know, dang near 200 miles an hour. And so if I'm doing laps of a half a mile each way, so 1 mile laps, it's going from one point to another, you know, from one end of the track to the other end of the track in about 5 seconds. So, you know, and 5 seconds, a half a mile. So it's a quarter mile away from you that way, quarter mile away from you that way. It's going about 5 to 6 seconds back and forth. So it's intense, but it's exhilarating when you land it. It's exhilarating. So if any of your viewers want to see what we're talking about, just Google or YouTube. Actually, just go YouTube. You know, turbine jets, or even put me in, you know, put my name in, Tonie Campbell. You'll see me flying a couple of my turbine jets on YouTube. So yeah, they're fun though. They're the most intense thing I have that is close to what it was like being a professional athlete. It's moments of adrenaline, concentration, fear, anxiety, and then when it's over, it's exhilaration. Yeah, so.
I guess I came from that other side of family, man. I'm not really a thrill seeker, man.
Well, you know me, man. I do everything, man. I like mountain climb. I've jumped out of airplanes. I scuba dive. I do everything, man. So, yeah, but yeah, I think Terrence, you know, my brother, your cousin, he does a little bit too, quite a bit. But I think in the rest of the Campbell family, all up and down our cousins, ain't nobody else doing this stuff, man.
Hey, my thrill seeking is waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and getting the smoker going.
Exactly. That might be Terrence's too, right there.
As a matter of fact, I do owe you a couple packs of sausages, man. I hooked your pops up, I hooked Terrence up. You had some, and the intention was to send them to you, but man.
I've heard the story. My mom told me that she had got some that was supposed to be sent for me, and they didn't make it either. So, you know, I ain't mad at you, bro. I'm okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna order some this week, though. I'm gonna order some this week and have them. So yeah, I'll get you straight. So now that we got into the hip hop, we got into the RC stuff. I learned something about Japan. Yeah, the craziest that I got in Japan, I bought a camera one time.
Oh yeah,
but it was similar to a camera that I had in the States, and so it was actually maybe about $100 more.
Right.
about $100 more. It really didn't have any crazy features or anything, but that's about as wild as I got in Japan. But
so see,
so
unfortunately, that's the problem for you, Greg, because you started traveling a little later. When I was traveling, the dollar was so strong. The yen was weak, and you can buy a ton of stuff. Now it's flipped. The yen is stronger than the dollar, so you got to pay more. I mean, here back in the day, you get a $600, $500 camera here, camera over here or stereo, you're paying $150 over there. That's why we were bringing so much stuff over there, back home, because we're like, people were sending us orders, man. They're like, yo, can you get me Panasonic XYZ, this, that, and the other, and can you get me Canon camera, this, that, and and we go shopping for them and bring back stuff. I mean, we weren't just buying electronics. We were coming back with jewelry, with pearls, with because I brought both my sisters and my mom. I bought them strings of pearls, black pearls, white pearls, Baroque pearls. Girl, I was the man with girls. I was always bringing them pearls, man. So
before we get into your Olympic tales,
okay,
I'll tell you the one memory I have of you being my extravagant cousin who's the first-time Olympian.
Okay.
So, okay, you go to Europe, come back with your ear pierced. I guess all the guys got the ears pierced. I remember you came back with the ears pierced, Olympic, all that. You had a couple Porsches. That was a big deal. That was back when Porsche was the level of a Bentley. Like it was, back then it was a very big deal.
Yeah.
But the thing that you had that sticks out to mind, I don't know if you had one or two of them, but you had those Afghan dogs.
I had one. So I had the Afghan and I had the Greyhound. So yeah. So I had the Afghan and the Greyhound. I had the blonde Afghan with the black face, and I had the red brindled Greyhound. So yeah, so I love hounds. I've always loved hounds, and right now we have a little cockapoodle terrier mix and two cats. I'm not wishing them to die, but I want to get another Greyhound so bad. I really do.
They'll let you have them expensive jets, man. You better get you a Greyhound this weekend, man.
I know. But yeah, my wife, she doesn't like bigger dogs though. That's the only thing, because she's only like 5'2" or something like that. She thinks a dog, anything bigger than her kneecap is a huge dog, and I'm like, God, man. So I don't know. I gotta figure out how to work that one out. I mean, she just let me get another saltwater fish aquarium this year, so that was my COVID. That was my COVID surprise. So
I'm tripping. Man, I got a saltwater tank that's been down for about 6 years.
Really?
Yeah, 180 gallon. 180 gallon.
Oh, sweet.
And I need to work that out, man. I've been trying to figure out who I was gonna have help me put it back together.
Talk to me, man, because now, man, I'm not gonna say it's easier, but I mean, if you just want to have fish only, it's gonna be cool. It's easy, but I got coral and fish in my tank, man. So
negative. Yeah. I kill anything. I keep small sharks and
rays. We'll just stick with the fish.
Yeah, I keep groupers, sharks, and rays, like stuff.
That's a fish only tank. That's a fish only tank.
Intentionally try to kill whatever's in that tank. Like, man,
exactly.
Yeah. So,
well, do you remember my saltwater tank at Mom's house?
Come on, man.
Okay. I had a couple panther grouper, and I had two sharks in there. Yeah.
You got lionfish.
Lionfish. You remember that? Yeah.
Nah, I remember.
That lionfish lived for like 15 years, man. So,
man.
Yeah, he was long. He was around, and even my mom enjoyed him. When I was in Europe, for those 3 months at a time, she learned how to take care of them, feed them, and all that stuff. So yeah, so Mom used to take care of my saltwater tanks, man, when I had it at her house. Exactly. So.
Nah, that's tight. So, okay. So your running has brought you around the world. Another thing real quick, you were sponsored by Diadora back in the day, and that was
nice.
The biggest deal to me. And it's great because Diadora's kind of making a comeback now. I don't know who.
Yeah. I still have friendly contacts with them. They always say if I'm ever in Italy, just let them know and they'll bring me to the factory, give me some gear or whatever. But right now, I'm with the I'm
Yeah.
with the swoosh right now.
With
So
the
I
swoop.
have I'm a Nike coach right now. So yeah, but I do have I have two pair of Deodoras, in my closet still that are still in the box. Thanks to my brother sent me, so for my birthday about 2 years ago, he sent me two pair of Deodora shoes. So, haven't worn them yet, but if when my Nike contracts expired, or if ever, hopefully never, because I love being with Nike. Go Nike. but yeah, they're there waiting for me if I have to. So
That's right. So, college track career.
mm.
How do you end up on your first Olympic team?
Oh wow, that's a great story too. So this is what happened. I had great coach, Ken Matsuda, who became my personal coach. Great coach. So near the end of my second year of college, he hands me a letter. And, it's from the United States Olympic Committee. And I open it up. It says, hey, congratulations, you've reached a qualifying time. We're inviting you to come to the Olympic trials. And I'm looking at him like, Matsuda, we call him Matsuda. It's like, coach, is this real? He goes, yeah, it's real. It's like, they want me to try out for the Olympic team. Am I that good? He goes, Tony, you made the qualifying standard. It's like, I don't even know what that means. He says, look, there's the information. They're going to fly you there to Oregon. They're going to put you in the dorms or whatever, the hotel. They're going to feed you. Everything's paid for. You just have to go there and you run. And I'm like, cool. So he and we traveled to Oregon. And so just like we had just come back from the NCAAs. And again, I still had no idea what the NCAAs were about. And he's just like, look, just keep running, see how how fast you can go. If you make it to the next round, keep running. So we get to Olympic trials and I'm like, okay, coach, how does this work? He's like, okay, look, instead of me going through all the details of how this works, you got 4 races to run. He says, you just need to be in the top 3 of each race. Simple as that. So first race goes off, I run, I'm in the top 3. I don't even remember what place I came in, and I set a personal record. And I'm like, hey, how's that? He's like, it's great. You're in the top 3. He says, so that means I keep going? He says, yes, Tony, you keep going. So I'm in the quarterfinals. So I'm in the quarterfinals. Coach, what? Tony, just run top 3. I run. I set another personal record. I'm in the top 3 because the competition is getting tougher now. And so now I'm going to the semifinals. Coach, same thing, Tony, top 3. So now, I run a big PR, and now I'm one of the favorites going in. And I'm like, but I don't know that. But, now I'm in the finals, and I'm like, coach, what happens now? He says, now, Tony, you got to be in the top 3 is the same plan. But the top 3 are the Olympic team, go to the Olympics. Mm-hmm. And so that race is actually on YouTube. You can find that one as well in Eugene, Oregon. It was actually kind of raining and everything. And of course, I'm a person who never thought I'd make an Olympic team. But then, especially at 19 years old, I thought, okay, if I ever make the Olympic team, I need to be more mature, a little bit, know more about this race. I figured 1984, I'll be 24, I'll be in my prime. I run,
real
gun
quick,
goes off, and I make it.
Real quick, excuse me. So you started running track when you were how
old? 16. 3 years later, I made an Olympic team. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I just had to.
I was kind of glazing over that part. Yeah, but yeah, that's how it happened, man. I made the Olympic team. I came in 3rd in the finals, and the next thing I'm on the Olympic team. And if you ever want to get a laugh, watch that race. It's exciting, but the Hall of Famer, great Ronaldo Nehemiah, world record holder, played for the 49ers for a while. He wins the race, but he can't even celebrate because there's this crazy kid all in yellow who's jumping all around, acting crazy, going crazy because he made the Olympic team. And in that moment, I upstaged him because I was just excited and thrilled about making the Olympic team. Although in 1980, they had announced they were going to pick the Olympic team, but we weren't going. So that was the reality of that situation hadn't sat in with me until about 2 or 3 minutes later. But in that moment, I was thrilled. I was exhilarated with what had happened. And it was being broadcast live in Europe, our Olympic trials, because the United States track and field was just the cream of the crop. And people wanted to see the United States track meets because they were just, the talent was just that spectacular. So now they're watching me going crazy, and I didn't even win the race. They're watching me go crazy. Next thing I know, I have an agent, and the agent has already booked me 10 races in Europe, leaving in 2 days. Okay, because everybody wants to see the Tonie Campbell, the new happy kid who can be so excited about making an Olympic team that's not going to the Olympics, but actually can run pretty fast. So yeah, it all happened like that. It really did. Yeah.
And to fill people in, the reason you didn't go to the Olympics was because of
the Soviet Union had invaded Afghanistan. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Had invaded Afghanistan, and the United States decided that we would not send an Olympic team to the 1980 Olympics that were going to be held in Moscow, Russia, because we were not going to be part of their propaganda while they were invading other countries. And so we, United States, boycotted Russia. And in Russia in 1984, 4 years later, returned the favor. They led the Eastern Bloc countries, boycotted us at the Los Angeles Olympics. 84. And then my third Olympics, everybody decided to come together in Seoul, Korea. And we all 163 nations came together, and we all played fair. But yeah, I mean, I'm one of the rare Olympians that have experienced all three versions of an Olympics, what we say. We boycotted them, they boycotted us, we all came together. So I've seen the entire Olympic spectrum. I really have.
At what moment did you realize that you could make a living being an athlete?
Great question. Great question. Well, like I just said, as soon as I made that team, and I suddenly a man came up to me, Hilton Nicholson. He was assigned to me as my manager, and he booked my flights to Europe. He put me on a plane 2 days later and said, my first stop was in London, England. He says, you're gonna go to London, England. Somebody will be waiting for you. A limousine will be waiting for you at the airport. We'll pick you up, take you to the hotel. When you get to the hotel, you go see a man named Andy Norman, and Andy Norman will take care of you. So I get to the hotel, like as instructed. I walk into the hotel, check into my room, find Andy Norman. Andy Norman says, hey, Tonie, welcome. You're really exciting to watch. This is what I expect out of you. I expect a good race. I expect you to sign autographs and just give me a good show. And this is for you. And he hands me an envelope. And inside the envelope was $700. And I'm like, oh, what do I do with this? And remember, $700. This is 1980
like
money. And I'm 90 years old. And he's handing me $700 in an envelope. And I'm like, what is this? And who's this for? He looks at me like I'm stupid. I'm like, that's your money. That's your appearance fee. If you come in the top three, you get another $500, $300, or $200 more. And I was like, you make money in track and field? I didn't know that. So that race, I think I took second. So I made another $300. I made $1,000 my very first race. And I run average 3 times a week. So that first 4 or 5 weeks, a 19-year-old, I made over $20,000 in a week, in a month. So yeah. So now you're wondering where the Porsches came from. So yeah.
that plugs in that plugs in a couple. That plugs in stuff a little bit.
That checks off answers a few questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew some rock starisms going on, but I didn't understand what, how, who, when.
Yeah.
So who's been your biggest inspiration as an athlete?
Oh, I have a lot of mentors that really taught me the right way to go. I actually did a TV show the other day with Steve Williams, who was, if people remember the 70s and from the East Coast, Steve Williams was basically the Usain Bolt before there was a Usain Bolt. He was 6'5". He was the fastest man alive. He had 5 or 6 world records in the 100, the 200 on grass and on the track. But he kept getting hurt in the Olympic years. And so he didn't make an Olympic team. And so Steve was one of my first roommates when I went to Europe. And then there was the Ronaldo Nehemiah, like I spoke to. He was like my mentor. And there was a distance runner of all things named Steve Scott, who became the American record holder. Those three individuals were probably the most important individuals in my life because they taught me a lot of things. They pulled me to the side, said, look, you're the new guy on the circuit here. Don't do these three things. He said, set yourself in, a business, live beneath your means, and don't get caught in the trappings of the rich. So don't go out and buy the super fast cars, don't buy the jewelry, don't buy all that stuff. When you can afford it, then you can buy it. And so that's exactly, I took that to heart. I bought a Porsche. I did, eventually, but I was originally looking at a Ferrari. So I bought a little lower. Okay. And then I opened up a restaurant in Ontario, California ran for about 5 or 6 years. And then I bought my first house. And so I continued to build wealth through investments and through capital. And so this house I live in right now is still part of my winnings, or, it's basically the escrow the interest and the escrow that was accrued over the year, helped me afford this house here. And, I still have nice cars. I still have a Porsche in the garage. I still have, a couple other things, but, but I still continue to try to live beneath my means. I mean, I still have a soft spot for a Ferrari. I would have loved to have bought a Testarossa, when my buddy Marcus Allen was driving down the street in his black one. I always was just like, dude, I was almost going to buy a red one, So, and I wish I had it now because that thing's worth so much money, though. But I've made a couple good decisions.
Your son Callan has a love for too, man. He got the cars, he got the motorcycles.
Yeah, but you know what, Greg? Cal, the Porsche. The reason why I still hold on to the Porsche, it's actually his car. Me and him made that deal a long time ago. I said, as soon as he gets a house, he buys a house or whatever with a garage, because that Porsche I have is white, and we call it Moby. Moby has never seen the sun, so he's never stayed a night outside that he didn't have to. So as soon as Callan has a garage, Moby gets to go to his house. So, because my days of driving Porsches fast and hard are probably long behind me. So I'm kind of, like I said, I have my Range Rover now. I'm kind of a cruiser now. So,
And so your top 3 most memorable track meets. They don't have to have anything to do with you. They can't have something to do with you, but the top 3 times where you were like, dang, I just witnessed some superhuman.
Okay, that's a great question. That's fair enough. Okay, so 2 of them are mine, and 1 of them is not mine. So my favorite place in the world to compete is Zurich, Switzerland. 1, because it's just a beautiful country. The crowd is insane. It's a small stadium for track and field stadiums. It's only 25,000 people can go in that stadium, but it's 25,000 people standing room. It's a soccer stadium with standing seats. There's only a few seats in there, so standing room. And those crowds are knowledgeable. It's like Eugene, Oregon, Tracktown, USA. Those crowds know who you are. They meet you outside your hotel. Even now, as a 61-year-old person, if I was to go to Europe right now to watch a track meet, there will be somebody see me in the hotel and they go, "Aren't you Tonie Campbell?" And they'd ask for my autograph because they still remember. They still collect autographs. So Zurich, Switzerland was definitely probably my favorite place to run every year because it was also where all the top elites came. We all focused on that race that year, each season, Zurich, and we always used to have some of our best races. Mm-hmm. Probably the most memorable race I ever had was 1985 in Australia, and when I won my very first World Championships, the World Cup Championship down in Canberra, Australia. And that was memorable, even more so than my Olympic races, because that was the World Championship I won after doctors said that I'd never run again after I blew my knee out in Trinidad and had surgery. They said I'd never run again because I had too much damage in there, and I fought my way all the way back to a World Championship and won. But out of all that, I've seen Usain Bolt run multiple times. I've seen him break 4 world records before. They were impressive. Don't get me wrong. I've seen probably 100, 200 world records in my career. But the one race that still to this day totally blows my mind is in the Olympics in Seoul, Korea, when Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis went head to head in that 100. That race, by far, was the most incredible race lineup of all athletes. And if you ever look at the documentary called 979, and they picked that race apart of all the individuals in that race, it's an amazing. But being on the front row and watching Ben Johnson come out the blocks and run faster than I've ever seen a human being run that fast before in my life up to that moment was amazing. And seeing the panic in Carl Lewis's eyes was priceless. It was priceless. Because he was stressing, man, because Ben was rolling and he was at top gear and there was nothing he could do. And I'm going to tell you something. I ran against Carl one time and Carl was freaking fast. He was fast. Me and him ran a relay leg against each other. We were both anchor legs. And I had a 5 meter lead on him and I lost by 5 meters. So, and I was at full speed and he just walked past me. And I remember watching him go past me and going, I am at red line, RPM out, and this dude is pulling away from me. That's pure speed. And I was blown away by him, when I saw that. So, but yeah, seeing Ben run even faster, mind blowing, totally.
Yeah, so it was interesting. We were both pallbearers at Ann's funeral.
Yeah.
And Terrence is in my closer to my age range. You're closer to my sister's age range.
Right.
So we've probably talked more as adults than we ever did as children,
True.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
And I remember asking you, I said, man, you ran, you ran on, in the Olympics and you ran on your legs so hard. I said, how are your knees feeling? And you probably don't remember what you said to me, but I remember you said, they're killing me right now.
Exactly. Oh my God. The price we athletes pay. And would I do it all again? Absolutely. But I've had 5 knee surgeries, 2 on my right, 3 on my left. I've had my shoulder done. I've had my Achilles done because I popped that. I've had 3 concussions in a race. I have a herniated disc in my back that just from time and age. I have a lot of injuries. I have a lot. I've pulled multiple muscles. Yeah. So
how does one get a concussion in a race?
When you're running against the freaking Russians, that's how it happens. Russians, you know what? If you're watching out there, Igor Kazanov, I love you, bro. I haven't talked to you in 20 years, but man, he was a dirty runner, man. If he was losing, he would take you out. He would freaking take you out. There was one time, and this happened in the Meadowland Gardens in New Jersey, and Bill Cosby was sitting in the front row because Bill Cosby was a huge track fan, and So before the race, most of the time we're not even focusing before the race. We're looking in the stands for girls and all that kind of stuff. And then it's time to race, then we get a focus. So we have been right before my race, about 5-10 minutes before my race, I'm doing my warm-ups and I see Bill Cosby and I go over and shake his hand, have a little word, and I get in the blocks. So I'm in lane 4 and Kazanov is in lane 2. And I get out the hole, the gun goes, and I'm rolling. And next thing I know, this dude comes from lane 2 across lane 3 and grabs me in lane 4, grabs my foot. And the next thing I know, I'm in a second, all I remember is I'm looking straight up at the Meadowlands and I'm seeing stars. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? And it was Kazanov. Kazanov was losing and he just took out lanes 3 and me like dominoes. And he, and I don't even remember who won the race, but it wasn't me, put it at or him. And next thing I know, that was the very first concussion I ever had, and it was.
So what happens when this happens?
You get knocked the heck out.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like penalties. Did he get a penalty?
No, nothing happened. And matter of fact, I still got paid, but I didn't get my bonuses, not like that. But yeah, I mean, in hurdling is like modern day gladiators. You can if you know how to get away with, you can get away with. There's actually, if you actually look at a hurdle race and slow it down, some races nowadays they don't do it too much. Back in the old days, you'll actually see athletes hitting each other, arms hitting each other. Sometimes you'll see a certain athlete grab another person's leg, and that's usually what happens a lot. A lot of times you can do a lot of dirty stuff in there. I mean, and I'll be honest, I'm not a choir boy. I've taken a few people out before on purpose. We
need a documentary, man.
I mean, there's sometimes, Greg, we were in races talking shit to each other, excuse my language, but we were talking stuff to each other in the middle of a race. I mean, especially because you got gunslinger mentalities that come in there like, I'm the baddest guy. And the next guy is like, I'm the baddest guy. And he might be the night before talking crap. And you're in the middle of a race and you got him. And you're like, yo, where you at, man? You talked all that stuff. Where you at? And you're in the middle of a race running and you're talking crap to him. And so stuff like that happened, man. You don't see too many guys do that stuff now. But when my generation, we never dodged each other. We never ducked and dodged. We the best of the best ran against each other all the time. We call it headhunting. We'd actually fly across country because we heard so-and-so was going to be in a race. And my agent would call, say, hey, put Tonie in that race. He wants to be in that race. And I would go across the country, beat that guy. And so mentally, I have something over him. So I don't have to worry about him when we go to the national championships or go to Europe. So mentally, I've got him. So we would actually do that. There was a few of us that would go head hunting. And we would, especially, sometimes people want to, they want to have a race and get all the rah-rah. And I'm like, nah, bro, you ain't at that stage yet. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to dust you off, take you off, show you what's up. And then, and you'll live another day and you'll learn to not talk shit in the paper. So you don't have to have me fly all the way to New York.
So real quick, in Trinidad, when you injured yourself, where they said you'd never run again,
right?
What happened in that race?
I got a million stories if you haven't realized that now. Okay, so what happened in Trinidad, a lot of these countries have one big international track meet a year. And Trinidad was one of those countries that has one big international, that they bring all the international superstars, in this particular race, the president of Trinidad was going to be there. And so I was one of the featured athletes in the 110 meter high hurdles. So in the middle of the night before the race, the meet promoters are banging on my door, at 1, 2 in the morning, they're banging on my door and they're going, Tonie, we have a problem. Edwin Moses, who's world famous, Edwin Moses, had a severe asthma attack. He's out of the 400 hurdles. We were talking and we know that you ran the 400 hurdles, which is one lap around with 10 hurdles. You ran the hurdles in college. Can you do it? And so, of course, I'm sitting there going, all right, I used to run this hurdle race, no big deal. I haven't trained for it, but it's just a 400. And so the first thing out of my mouth was, are you going to pay me double? And they're like, we'll pay you double. We'll pay. And so at that point, I hope I'm not telling on myself. At that point in 1985, my appearance fee was $4,000 a race. And so I was just like, you're going to pay me double. So I'm getting $8K just to, and then I get bonuses on top of that. And they're like, cool, that's the deal. You get $8,000, at the end of the meet, for running, both races. So I'm like, cool, bet. I'm go back to bed. So next, the track meets at night. So I get plenty of rest. So I get in the race, and there's a couple other Olympians from other countries, a couple of US Olympians in there, and I'm in the prime lane. So like we just saw this last Olympics, the Rai Benjamin and Kirsten Warholm, you see that race pattern. They take 13 steps for each hurdle. Back in the day, a lot of guys, there was only a few of us that can go 13 steps between hurdles because we were tall. I'm 6'3", so I can go 13 steps. But I could only go, instead of like Rai Benjamin, they go 13 steps, or Edwin Moses go 13 steps all the way around the hurdles, the whole race. I can do 13 steps for 7 hurdles. Then I shift down to 14 for 2, and then 15 the last one. Okay, so the race goes off. I'm like, cool. Last time I ran this race, that was my race plan. So I'm running 5th hurdle. I'm 13 step, and I'm in the lead. Things feel great. I'm like, cool. Let's go another one. Here comes the 6th hurdle. 13 step, cool. All right, I'm a little tired, but I still made it. Okay, let's go one more. seventh hurdle, 13 steps, missed it by about that much. Okay, so next thing I know, I go up in the air. I'm not going to make it. And so the first thing you learn in hurdling is never go down with your hands. Always turn your shoulder and roll. So I immediately go into, I'm going to fall. So let's get ready for the ground. Let's turn. But unfortunately, as I'm going across the hurdle, my foot gets caught on the hurdle, but my body keeps going forward. But I'm twisting in the air to keep from falling on my face and protecting my front side and rolling my shoulder. So what happened was my foot caught me, kept my body in stationary position while the top half of me was going forward. So I twisted and tore my knee apart. So I destroyed my posterior ligament crucia, my posterior cruciate ligament, and several points of my meniscus were torn, and I tore the nerve in my ligament as well. Sad thing about it, I didn't get paid for either race. I didn't get paid. I fell and didn't get paid for either race. I came back with $0, but they had to put me on a medevac airplane back home, and I had surgery 2 days later because they had to wait for some of the swelling to go down. And when I woke up out of anesthesia, my mother was on the bedside crying, and I was just like, "What happened?" And she's like, "Tonie, it was your knee, your ligament was gone, and that's why you had so much swelling, but you didn't have any pain because the nerve was torn, and they said they don't think you'll ever run again." And at that moment, if anybody's ever had surgery, when you come out of anesthesia, you're usually nauseous anyway. So I was just like, I'm gonna go back to sleep for a few minutes because I just thought I heard you said I'll never run again. I'm gonna go sleep, and when I wake up, things are gonna be wonderful. And unfortunately, when I woke up, that was still the prognosis. And the beautiful thing, and I will always be a USC Trojan because of this, those people took care of me. They immediately started working on me. Like most people go to rehab maybe a couple of days a week, for an hour or two. USC brought me. I was in rehab for 6 days a week for 8 hours a day. And so that fall happened in April. I ran my first race in June. I ran really slow at the national championships. And matter of fact, that same weekend, it was in Indianapolis. That same weekend, my birthday happened. And I partied with Houdini that weekend and the Fat Boys. So that was a great weekend. I have to tell you about that story the other day. Those guys were really cool. God bless his soul. They were really, both of them, a couple of them, but they were cool. They were cool dudes, man. The twins were really cool. But anyway, I ran really slow, but then I went to Europe a month later, continued rehab. I got faster and faster and faster. And at the end of the season, the top hurdler had got hurt, but I was now had moved up the ranking, and I was the second fastest man in the world going into the end of the season. And so the team replaced him with me, and I went to Australia and won the whole thing. So that race is also on YouTube as well in Canberra. And that's why it became famous because there was a photographer that took a picture of me crossing the line from above and behind me. And that image of me is been copied all over the world for, people in victory, because my hands were up in the air. My head was up looking at, celebrating with God. And it's a beautiful picture. So, yeah.
So right now I'm at a point where I listen to a lot of motivational stuff. I mean, I'm really like, that's what I'm on right now. It's just like, really just trying to be the best I can be, intentionally working on me every day.
Absolutely. You have to.
How did you overcome the fear of injuring yourself again after you sustain an injury like that? And then you go back to what was your profession at the time. Like, how do you mentally get yourself around hopping hurdles again?
That's a great question. And you know what? I apologize. That's a question that nobody's asked me before. That's a great question. You won, man. You won the gauntlet. God, Greg, that's a great question. How did I because fear was for real. I mean,
Yeah.
one, the pain of blowing my knee out again was intense. It really was. And just like anybody's ever sprung an ankle or something like that, those first couple of steps, you're on pins and needles, and you're terrified of feeling that sharp pain again or whatever pain, and it's real. But I think the fear of not being in control overrode all that. And what I mean by that is, I didn't want the last image of Tonie Campbell, the 1980, 1984 Olympian, being sprawled out in the 400 hurdles on a track in Trinidad and Tobago. I didn't want a doctor to tell me when my career was over. I was like so many professional athletes, wanted to go out on top or wanted to be the one that says, I am announcing my retirement. I'm not retiring because I'm injured. And so, and then also I hadn't finished my college degree, and I was kind of afraid of my future, financially, because I had a house and I was concerned about, well, how am I going to pay my mortgage and stuff like that if I'm not still making this money that I'm used to making. And I had the backing of sponsors and stuff like that were sticking with me through my injury and everything. And so it came to my decision and my coach's decision that if rehab went well and I was able to make it back, to a point that I just could compete, at that point, I can call it quits and say, you know what? Yeah, I got injured, but I made it all the way back. I wasn't as fast as I ever was, but at least I made it back and I'm cool. And I'll be happy with it and not have to move on. But the fact that I made it all the way back and became world champion, was just showed me that God had a greater purpose for me. And I'm very spiritual when it comes to that. I'm like, again, like I told, when we started this conversation, I said, he took one of the slowest kids on one city block and made him one of the fastest men in the world. What else can he do? And he basically put me back together and showed the world that, you know what, I can take a broken individual. I can take a slow individual, make him fast. I can take then that same fast person I can break him or have him get broken. And then I can rebuild him and make him one of the fastest men in the world. And I'm like, I'm no longer in the driver's seat. It's obviously, I'm just the vehicle for his glory, and I'm just going to let it ride out. And I can't be the one that can say, God, your talents are great, but I'm calling quits. I'm calling it quits. He's going to tell me when it's time to quit. And he did. He did in 1992. He was just like, hey, son, job well done, but your body's breaking down. And it's time to wave to the crowd and say goodbye and let somebody else have this talent. Let somebody else have this limelight. And I never looked back. When I retired in 92, never regretted. I had an amazing career, 13-year professional career. And I got stories, as you guys can tell. I have a million stories to tell. And I've seen things that people can only imagine and dream. And even now, I have friends all over the world. I have family all over the world. I still get Christmas cards from fans around the world. I still get autographs. Matter of fact, I need to go to the post office tomorrow and send one off. People still ask me for my autograph. So, I've been blessed in a lot of ways. And so fear overcomes a lot of things. Fear and faith, overcomes a lot of things.
So when did you receive your call for coaching?
Well, coaching kind of fell in my lap. You know me. If anybody has been paying attention, they could tell I'm kind of a nerdy kid. I like RC stuff, because I like tinkering and putting things together. I like, saltwater fish. I got animals. I always thought I'd be a marine biologist or in the sciences, and I'm still fascinated by, anything to do with science. I'm a Discovery Channel nerd right now, but I realized that I was, and it was pretty simple. I realized I was given this talent, and I can't be selfish with it. I became really good, one of the best that has ever done the 110-meter high hurdles, and showed the world, the talent that I was given to me. And my life was changed forever. We grew up in Carson, Compton, whatever. And, however you feel about that, I wanted to show people that you can live beyond your environment, and there's a big world out there for you to see, and you can use the talent that was given you if somebody trusted in you to, you know, and helped you bring it out, nurtured to bring it out of you. And so my coaching came from me wanting to bring out that same love or that same talent or that same gift that were given to others, and but needed a coach like Ken Matsuda was to me, needed a fatherly coaching, you know, person that was going to bring it out of them. And I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of great athletes, and a lot of fortunate to be around a lot of athletes that you never are going to hear from, but everybody within them deserves the right to try. And everybody has an opportunity to experience this sport for what it is. It's pure love, and it's just an amazing journey. And I have created several Olympians. I have right now, opening ceremonies was today, and for the Paralympics, I have some Paralympic athletes in Tokyo right now. As a matter of fact, one of my athletes, Scout Bassett, will be one of the commentators for the Tokyo Olympics. She didn't make the team. Unfortunately, we were injured when we went to our Olympic trials, and so she didn't make the team, but she's going to be the commentator. So I have a lot of connections, and a lot of this is because the gifts that I learned and the knowledge I gained about the sport, I'm able to share that. And so I've always decided that I was not going to be selfish, that I was going to share that gift and pass it on.
Oh man, that's funny. I'm learning about my cousin. I'm learning more than I've ever known in my life. I know that I need to get you over here and take a look at my Shark Tank so we can get that back cracking.
Absolutely.
And yeah, no, that's dope. So what do you miss most about the time before the pandemic hit?
Wow. Not wearing a mask, that's for sure. And I still do it. I mean, I'm vaccinated, and I encourage everybody to get vaccinated because, and this is the 100% truth, that I have had 13 friends and family die of COVID in this last year and a half. I just had my 13th friend, who's a coach friend of mine, a coach from Chaffey College up in LA. He died last Monday. He went into the hospital on Friday and died on Monday. And it got to a point, you know, that I had during last summer, there were like a couple people died. There was 2 died in the same week. I was numb. I couldn't even grieve anymore. It was just like this disease was so real and was taking so many of our brothers and sisters that I just had to shut down mentally because I couldn't handle it anymore. And I think the one saving grace that COVID did give me personally is that we couldn't have funerals. Because if I had to have gone to all 13 of those funerals, I would have been a mess. I mean, so I was allowed to stay home and grieve. But if I had to go to 13 funerals, and you know how hard it is when we had to bury our aunt, could you imagine that times 13? So the one thing I miss is sanity, and a sense of just the ability of people to just remember what it's like to just be living their lives unencumbered by an enemy that is so unseen, but is so real. And the one thing that we'll never return to is a normal. So we now have to learn to live with that. But the other thing that happened last year was an awakening amongst us people of color, and thank God it awakened a lot of people of non-color. I spent some time. Our Olympic trials were in Minnesota, and I went to where George Floyd was killed. It was an amazing memorial that's there. It's still there to this day, and it's an eerie feeling there. And I had to pay my respects there. And I put some pictures on Facebook. I don't know if you saw them, but yeah. So it was an awakening in the middle of a tragedy. And it's almost like, back in the 60s. The 60s, we had a time of beautiful music was happening, but it was craziness. So you have political unrest, we have civil rights stuff going on, but you had war in Vietnam going on. The world was freaking crazy. And it's very similar to 2020. The world, 2019 and 2020, the world is crazy. We got wars going on. We got civil unrest going on. We got disease and famine going on.
Crazy
People,
extravagance.
exactly. And the politics are just so divisive and crazy. And you got crazy people believing all sorts of crazy nonsense, and you got a president that's instigating riots and stuff. And yet he's so manipulative. People don't realize they're being manipulated. It's crazy. I swear I'm living in an episode of some crazy sci-fi film, and I'm waiting for Ashton Kutcher to come out and go, y'all all got pranked.
I wish, man. I wish.
But it's crazy though. For
the last one, where do you see the progression of social interaction going in the next 2 years?
There's a major pushback right now. You see the 1619 project, people pushing back that. You see people, pushing back on defunding the police. They're seeing people push back on taking the knee. There's a certain part of a certain point or a certain population of society doesn't want to hear, and they never will hear. They'll never open their hearts or mind because they're afraid of losing control. And the point is, how could you really how can you really be teaching your children history when you're omitting a great part of history? You're not telling the whole truth. So what do you teach? You're only indoctrinating your children into more of the lie, the lie of what is the United States. United States is a very flawed country, as all countries are. It's not the perfect union. It's not the perfect shining beacon on the hill. It is a beacon on the hill, but you have to understand there are a lot of pits and valleys along the way to get to that hill. And if we only acknowledge that we have a long way to go, we're going to be better. But people are frustrated. People are tired. People are tired of police abuse. People are tired. There's far more good cops than there are bad cops. But until we understand that there are bad cops making the good cops look bad, we've got to, we're not going to get anywhere. And when they start realizing that taking a knee in the national anthem was never about the flag. It was about what John Carlos and Tommy Smith were fighting for in Tokyo City. It was what Angela Davis and the Black Panthers were talking about. It's what, what was happening in Tiananmen Square with the Chinese. It's about equality to all people, not just certain people. And if people, and in this situation, we were talking, my friends and my coaches were talking about this the other day. It's like the one problem people have with Black Lives Matter is exactly the same problem people are having with the vaccine and masks. If people can't believe that the vaccine is helping and the virus is real, and they can't even be concerned and worry about themselves, how can they be concerned or worried about other lives? If they don't believe their own lives matter enough to take a vaccine or to save their life, because the vaccine is the thing that God has helped create to save their lives. And if they can't realize that their lives matter, how can they really care about Black Lives Matter? And that's what I see when I look at people that are choosing to say the vaccines, the government's, plot to control us and whatever. They're just basically saying they can't see a way that they can care about their own lives and their lives of their own family, and it's sad. And it's just not, Caucasians or conservatives or Republicans. Unfortunately, I have a few kids on my track team that are Black, that their families don't believe in the vaccine either because they believe in these wacky doodle controversies. And I'm like, I lost one of my kids from my team yesterday because he's 19 years old. He's an adult, but he lives with his family, and his family won't let him take the vaccine.
So they're not allowing. So they have to have the vaccine in order to run now.
Yeah. Our college has gone to 100% vaccinating. If you are not vaccinated, you cannot be on the campus. If you can't be on the campus, you can't train. So it's kind of it's a domino that fell in place. So I lost 3 or 4 athletes this on one team and about 2 on my other team because they wouldn't be vaccinated. And I'm now the assistant athletic director of the college, And that number is quite large of how many football players we've lost, a couple basketball players, men and women, and because they aren't vaccinated, and they got dropped from their classes this morning because they aren't vaccinated, so they no longer are welcome on the campus. They can take class online, they can't be on campus, and we still had a couple positive tests. We had 3 yesterday, and had one of my team members tested positive on Friday. So he's not allowed back on campus for 90 days. So I think that's going to change though. But I think he's going to be allowed back on in a couple weeks, but then we'll have to social distance for a while until make sure he doesn't have any symptoms, and then they'll probably let him start being with the team and stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy out there right now. People just don't realize it, but again, I understand people's rights to choose, but then my 13 friends would definitely plead with each and every one of those people that are choosing not to take the vaccine to seriously rethink it. And my wife, our family is heavy with nurses in the family. Your mom was a nurse. My mom was a nurse. Our aunt was a nurse. My wife is a nurse, and she'll tell you that, there's a lot of people that are non-vaccine people that are in there dying of COVID, and they're begging to have the shot now on their deathbed. It's too late, So, my brother-in-law just recently got out of the ICU because he wasn't anti-vaccine, but he was just afraid of needles. Now he's going to get all the needles that he wants in the rest of his life because his heart is now messed up from COVID, having being in the ICU, and his heart got attacked pretty bad. So one little 30 seconds of discomfort, now the rest of his life he's gonna have to have needles and surgeries, and he has to get a pacemaker and stuff like that.
Medication.
So yeah, exactly. So it just doesn't make sense to me. Is the vaccine the end all or be all? No, because people still are getting sick even after having the vaccine, but those that get sick aren't dying. So that's my plug right there. Get vaccinated.
Nah, man, I really appreciate it. One thing I learned out of this interview is that even though you're a coach now, I guess once an ambassador to the world, always an ambassador to the world. Your conversation is very ambassadors. I mean, beyond the COVID part of the conversation, but just the way you carry yourself, even being compassionate and sympathetic, empathetic to like the social plight. Like you could easily be whatever you're what's your position at the college?
Well, I'm the head track and field and cross country coach. I'm also the senior event manager, and I'm the newly appointed assistant athletic director at Southwestern College.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that director
3 positions.
That director part.
Yeah.
To be a director and to even care about social issue, that's kind of amazing to me. Yeah. Beyond being family. Well, with that being said, man, I appreciate you giving me the time.
I appreciate you, man.
And give out your social media handles. Any of them?
Absolutely. My Instagram is Prodigy Coaching Group, and my Facebook is Tonie Campbell, as far as I know. Tonie Campbell. It's actually Tonie Campbell OLY, because that's the new nomenclature for like when you have doctors, DR or MD. That has been approved by the worldwide organization, whoever makes those terms up, that all Olympians are now OLYs. So I am Tonie Campbell OLY. So yeah.
That's funny, man. I'll tell you this and we'll close it out. So I've seen your wife at the family events and stuff like that. Right. Never really interacted with her too much and whatnot. Never really knew her name. And I always thought the OLY meant like that's your joint Facebook account.
Oh, really? No. Actually, no. Her last name is not Campbell. It's Shepley. But yeah, Debbie Shepley, because our adopted boys, their last name is Shepley, and she didn't want to change her name, and when I adopted them, I didn't want to change the name, so So we're good. We're cool. Everybody know that they're still Campbells no matter what. So Lucas and Jeremy are Campbells, Callan's Campbell, and Taylor, Taylor, my daughter's Campbell, but yeah, the Lucas and Jeremy, the middle ones are Shepleys, as well as my wife Debbie. So yeah.
Okay, that's right. Well, no, man, once again, thank you. And this has been a wonder. And I will reach out to you about that aquarium in the next couple of days, but I'm not gonna ask you until I get your sausage. I'm gonna have sausage again, and then we'll move that way. So no, man, thanks a lot.
All right, Greg. Hey, and thanks guys for having me, and Pharcyde especially. Keep it going. Keep pushing the music, because I want to see the advancements in the music industry like I saw the last 30 years, because I really enjoy it. So yeah, keep it going out there who's in the music industry.